Morning. It is Tuesday, March 2nd, and it's kind of nasty out here. It's going to be raining today. It's kind of cool. I'm going to go inside and we're going to talk about the three different zones that I want you to comprehend, which is the dormant, the transition, and then the green go zone. So I'm going to take you inside and we'll just have a discussion about those three zones, and I want you to get that picture in your mind. We'll talk not just about what you do, but some of the things you don't do as well, too. So let's go inside because it's nasty out here. Now, I will let you know the next 3 days after today, I've got some clear weather moving in. My son's going to come over. We're going to be doing some applications, so make sure you click that subscribe button so you don't miss any of them. And it's kind of chilly out here, so let's go inside.
Morning. So we're going to have a discussion today, and we're going to talk about transition zones. We're going to talk about the three phases. And I think this will help clear up a lot of questions that I'm getting. The first thing I want you to understand is that a lot of what I'm covering is actually covered in the Bermuda Lawn Guide. So don't forget the Bermuda Lawn Guide in the description below. I will link to the Bermuda Lawn Guide. I'll link to any of the products I'm talking about. The Bermuda Lawn Calendar is there. And of course, don't forget, click the subscribe button. It's that red thing around here somewhere. Click subscribe so you don't miss this beautiful face on our videos coming up. Got a bunch of them. I'm going to put up a sort of a chart for you real quick. It's not so much a chart as it is a mindset that I want you to think about. And we're going to talk about the do's, but I'm also going to start by talking about the don'ts. So there are three phases that all of us are sort of in right now. We're either in the still dormant phase, which is kind of where I am. We're in the blue waking up phase, which is also what I call the transition zone. And then we have the wide awake. So we have the yellow, the blue, and the green. Those are the three phases. And as long as you understand that there are three phases of that on most of your warm season grasses, you'll better understand what to do and what not to do. So let's start with some of the don'ts. If you're still in your dormant period, I consider myself still in the dormant period. Let me pull up my 10-day forecast and I'll just sort of look at it real quick with you. So I've got a couple days in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. It's really varied, and I actually have one night that's going to drop down to 31, and that's going to be Saturday coming up. So I still see some 30s showing up, 40s and 50s at night, even though I have some daytime highs in the 70s. So I am still in that dormant zone. I really am not into the wake up. I'm in the yellow. I'm really not into the blue. So let me pull up this morning real quick. I wrote up a couple things about things you don't want to do. And this is during the transition period. So when we're in the dormant period, we can do a lot of negative things like weed killing and put down pre-emergence. And what we want to do while we're still at the end of that dormant zone is we want to do the Jumpstart program. And the Jumpstart program is real simple. It's 10-10-10 PGF balanced all over the lawn just to add some nutrients into the soil and humichar. That's all we're going to do. So that when the grass enters into the wake up or the transition zone, the blue zone, it wakes up into an environment with nutrients and good things going on. A lot of us, so pretty soon I'm going to be coming into that blue wake up or transition zone. A lot of you guys are already in that zone. So let's talk about some of the things you don't want to do. I think that's important. Number one, don't use liquid fertilizers. I see that a lot. People out spraying liquid fertilizers sort of in that transition zone, and that's really not what you want to do. Liquid fertilizers are designed to shoot nutrients very quickly to a plant, and we really don't want to stimulate. We don't want to overstimulate our grass at this point. So I would say avoid the use of liquid fertilizers in that blue transition or wake up period. We have put down, or you should be putting down, PGF balanced and humichar. That's all you need. We're going to sit back and just leave it alone. Don't use organic materials or organic fertilizers during that period. Why not? Because anything that's organic, which means that it's a organic matter, whether it's plant, animal, waste, whatever it is, it needs microbial action. If your soil microbes are not really active, it's not going to do your soil any good. It's not going to do your lawn any good. So do not put down stuff like chicken feed. Do not put down organic-based fertilizers. Don't put down biosolid fertilizers during that period. They're just not effective. If you're going to put down if you're going to put down a nutrient, do it in a direct chemical form. So during that period, while the soil microbes are slow, we don't do anything organic based during that period. We wait for the warmer temperatures to move in. We wait for the green zone. Biostimulants. Don't use any biostimulants. You're going to be wasting your money. A good example is super juice. Now, super juice is called a fertilizer, but really I classify it as a biostimulant because if you read a biostimulant, you need to do this. You need to go read a biostimulant label, and all that's going to be on that biostimulant label is going to probably be humic acid, fulvic acid, seaweed, and maybe a little bit of nutrients. Well, that's what super juice is. Super juice, the primary job is a very, very mild fertilizer. The nutrient level is very low. It's more so a biostimulant. It has sea kelp, it has humic acid, fulvic acid, broad spectrum nutrients, and it has iron inside of it. And that's really where we'll be using it this year. Once we get into that growing zone, we'll actually be adding a microbial pack to our super juice, and we'll be putting out organic matter, and we'll be spraying that as a biostimulant and microbial stimulant. That's what we're going to be focused on this year. So just so you know what we're coming up with this year. Don't use grub prevention. A lot of people look at natural ways to prevent grubs, but spring is not the time to do that. Those products are focused on newly hatched grubs. It's not for the larger grubs that are present this time of year. So that prevention really is done in July or that area. If you have grub issues, you need to get a grub killer. The double kill, I'll list it down below. If you had grub problems last fall, you'll probably have some grub problems this spring. So go ahead and retreat for it. But you have to use a killer. You cannot use a preventative during the spring. Don't use weed killers broadly on the lawn during your transition zone. So this is the blue zone. This isn't the yellow. The yellow zone, we're sound asleep. We can really treat our lawn harshly. When we get into the transition zone where we start to see a lot of this green sprigs start to come up, that's where we want to avoid just broad spraying of the lawn. We don't want to do that. We want to leave the lawn alone. So stay away from just spraying broadly killers on your lawn. Don't aerate before you scalp. Okay, so aeration, core aeration, is kind of a stressful point for lawns. And you don't want to do a core aeration really before you're ready to say, hey, my lawn is entering into that green zone, so I'm going to start to put down some fertilizer. It's starting to grow. What I like to see is, number one, do your scalp when you start to see your grass grow up everywhere. Once you've done your scalp, you're going to get rid of a lot of that grass, and it's going to be real easy to do your coration at that point. So after your scalp and after your lawn starts to green up a little bit, that's the perfect time for your aeration. You don't want to really do aeration during dormant zones. You want to do it during the actual growth period. So again, when we're moving from the blue into the green and we're starting to see grass come up everywhere, but we're still short from that scalp, that's a real good time to do your core aeration. Leveling. Do not do leveling during your yellow and blue periods. Especially heavy leveling. You're going to be covering up. You want that sun to reach the soil. You want the sun to reach those little green sprigs. So we don't want to be doing a bunch of leveling during that period. When we do our leveling, we want to do leveling during the active growing period. The only problem that I think a big mistake that people make when they try and level is they don't bring their grass down low enough. Because remember, you're not leveling your grass, you're leveling your soil. So when you do a leveling, I want you to get your grass back down low again. But I like to do my leveling when we're in the green period. So when we're in that active growing period. Let's talk about things that still can be done. So let's say you're coming off your yellow and you're entering into your transition period. What can you do still? I always say, people ask me all the time about pre-emergent, and I tell people that it's never too late to put down your pre-emergent. If you do not have pre-emergent down, put it down. It doesn't matter, because you're going to be stopping future weed seeds. Now, the only exception to that, of course, is people with new sod. If you have new sod, you wait an entire growing season before you put down pre-emergence. But for everybody else, let's say you're watching this video and you're a month late, put down your pre-emergent. Go get pre-emergent, put it down now. Put down pre-emergent. And that'll stop more and more weeds. Even though you may have missed a first germination, you're going to stop future weeds. So it's never too late for pre-emergent. You can still, if you're in that blue zone, if your grass is starting to wake up and you're a little bit late, you can still put down PGF balance and you can still put down Humichar. Those are the things you can still do in that transition zone. It's no problem. So let's talk about you guys that have sort of have been in the blue zone, sort of in the transition wake up period, and are kind of leaning towards the green zone. What do you guys need to be thinking about? When you start to wake up, when your lawn starts to wake up and you start to enter that green zone, that's when you're going to switch over to your standard fertilizers. So you'll be switching over to PGF Complete, and you'll be doing a light coat during the spring and early summer. I like to do a light coat every 3 weeks. Again, a light coat every 3 weeks. So we put it down at the light bag rate about every 3 weeks. It makes much more sense, rather than dump a whole bunch of fertilizer down once and expect that to last 8 to 12 weeks. It makes much more sense to reduce the amount of fertilizer and put it out in light coats, light coats, light coats. That way, if you have big, heavy thunderstorms, if you do some aggressive cutting and you're moving it, I always prefer to do light coats more often. Like every 3 weeks, I'm going to be putting out a very light coat of PGF Complete every 3 or 4 weeks while I get my grass really going strong. And especially if you have wheat grass with a lot of bare spots in it, keep pushing it, keep feeding it, keep feeding it, keep feeding it, keep feeding it. I can't repeat that enough. Keep feeding it until you get it to the point that you're happy with it. Once we get into the warmer temperatures and the summer temperatures and we start to get the 90s, then we can go ahead and we'll start putting down some organic matter, and we'll be spraying with the super juice and the biostimulant and the microbial pack. Same thing we're doing in our gardens with the Dirt Booster product. If you're in the green zone, of course, you can look at your aeration. So if your grass is actually solid green and you've already done everything, you can look at a core aeration and then give it a couple weeks and then start to look at some of your leveling, if you need any leveling done. So I really want you guys to focus on those 3 zones: yellow, blue, and green. And once you grasp that, you can sort of sit back and you can look at your 10-day forecast, and you can say, what am I in? Look at your yard, look at your forecast. Personally, I'm still in that yellow zone. I'm really still in that dormant zone. Even though when I go out back, I see areas where I have a lot of these green sprigs coming up all over my lawn. I still kind of am in that yellow zone. I'm maybe a week away from the blue zone, which is transition. And that's when I'll start to see a lot of that grass coming up. And that's when I'll really plan my scalp. And then after that, of course, I'll enter into my green zone, which is the go zone, as we call it. A couple of the questions that have been coming up, people are asking about burning their Bermuda. I never recommend that anyone burn their Bermuda, and it's mainly for liability reasons. All you have to do is have it get out of control one time. And you could be looking at a really big lawsuit when you start to burn down people's houses. I really stay away from burning Bermuda. The other thing is if you are going to burn Bermuda, you have to know if it's legal in your area, number one. Number two, you have to do it on the right wind conditions. You have to have several people around with hoses just in case it starts to jump. I'm just telling you, you're asking for trouble. After you do a burn on your Bermuda, then you're going to have this black sooty stuff that's all over your lawn. And don't forget, if you want to burn your Bermuda, you have green Bermuda out there that's still out there that's going to get scorched a little bit. So the thought process for the majority of people is, no, we don't burn Bermuda anymore. We just scalp it and remove it. Again, it can be kind of dangerous, and that's why I never recommend it. It's not that it's good or bad. It's just that it's just dangerous. Couple of people have asked about Dirt Booster, when Dirt Booster is going to be available. Everything is ready to go for production. I think they'll start maybe running it maybe next week or so, and then a week after that, maybe listing up on Amazon. I don't control that big ship. That's Anderson's. That's a huge company, and they're working it in as fast as they can.
Hey guys, so one last note that I did want to cover. A couple people keep asking about. I see this all the time. How long after I do this can I do this? They're worried about doing treatments on the same day. So can I spray super juice, and can I do pre-emergent? Can I put human char? How long? But I've done videos on this before. I don't know of any product that you can't put down all in the same day. So if you wanted to take 8 different products and put them down on your lawn, you could do it all in the same day. I have yet to find any issues of combining multiple treatments. So don't worry about it. Really just look at the weather, and the weather pattern should really control that. Anyways, got a lot going on, a bunch of videos. Hit subscribe. Talk to you later. Doc.